Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of War Room Italia. Today, I have a very special guest with me. Another interview with an international star, an intellectual. I'm very, very proud to introduce you to Dr. Jules Gomes. He has a master in theology and a doctorate in the Hebrew Bible from the University of Cambridge. And he taught at the United Theological College, Bangalore, the London School of Theology, and Liverpool Hope University. He also lectured at Catholic and Protestant seminaries and was canon theologian and artistic director at Liverpool Cathedral, as well as a St. German Cathedral, Peel, and vicar of Castletown and Arbury on the Isle of Man. So Dr. Jules Gomes is a journalist, an editor, an author of 5 books and several academic articles. He has also been a volunteer in the IDF during the Operation Cast Lead in 2008-2009, I think you'll tell us later, stationed at Kerem Shalom Army Base near the Gaza border. And today he is based in Rome, from where he continues his work as a journalist. And he is definitely one of the finest intellectuals I ever met, and he's so knowledgeable in the matters of religion. I'm very, very, very proud that he's with us today. So let me bring him in and welcome to Dr. Jules Gomes. Thank you, Jules, for being with me today. I hope I have been correct. And in your introduction, you have so many titles, and I didn't know where to start.
Thank you so much, Guya. It's a joy and a privilege to be on your show. And you've been overly generous, I must say, in your effusive praise of me. So thank you so much. I could hardly recognize myself. But it's an absolute delight to be on your program today. And may I repay the compliment by saying I have been impressed by the amount that you have been doing, almost as a voice in the wilderness here in Italy. You've been speaking out and you've been bang on the topic, right on the target in so many areas, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, or as some would say, scandemic. So thank you so much for inviting me to be on your show.
Jules, I repeat, truly the honor is mine. And I want to tell the people that are listening right now that when I say that he is one of the finest intellectuals I have ever had the fortune to meet in my life, it's because it's real. It's not because I want to. He is a very deep, you will now know him. His views are so profound and rooted in real academic knowledge. He has been a professor of Islam, of Christianity, of all religions, and he is also right now. Jules, you started a new project, right? Would you tell us a little bit of this new project? I have seen a video you just posted 2 days ago. It's amazing. We will show 2 minutes of it. But give it a little introduction of this new project that you have embarked.
We've started a program called Rome Dispatch, which is supposed to be about 12 to 15 minutes. Sometimes it goes on to 18 or 19 minutes. But we are reporting about the critical activities of the Catholic Church in particular, but Christianity in general, with the focus on the Vatican and particularly in Europe. We're talking about religion and culture, how they intertwine. And it's not only news, but also an analysis of the news from a theological and biblical perspective, which is so badly missing in most news reporting, because quite honestly, I've worked in secular media a long time ago, and secular journalists are so ill-informed and virtually illiterate when it comes to the impact of religion on, contemporary politics and culture.
Yes, so let's show the newest release here. The newest release.
Jesus got the Lord's Prayer wrong, so Pope Francis had to put him right.
From the Eternal City, this is Souls and Liberty, Rome Dispatch with Dr. Jules Gomes.
Buonasera. Thank you for joining me in Rome. God, you see, got the death penalty wrong, so Pope Francis had to put him right. The Bible got the death penalty wrong. Capital punishment is the only law repeated in all 5 books of Moses. Well, that's wrong. So Pope Francis had to use the Catechism of the Catholic Church and his declaration Dignitas Infinita to correct the Bible. Jesus got the Lord's Prayer wrong, so Pope Francis had to put him right. In 2019, Pope Francis ordered the Italian bishops to change Jesus' words in the Pater Noster of the Mass from "lead us not into temptation" to "do not abandon us to temptation." Now, isn't it wonderful that we have a Pope who is able to offer an update, an aggiornamento of the Bible for the postmodern world? Why follow an outdated version of Christianity where God sends fire and brimstone on sodomites in Sodom and Gomorrah, when you can follow a really cool version of Catholicism where Pope Francis corrects God and issues a declaration called Fiducia Supplicans, permitting priests to informally bless couples in same-sex relationships?
Okay, Jules. I first of all my compliments for the production, and of course the theme, the topic that you are addressing, and you're bringing back the importance. Incredible, the fundamental importance that it plays theology, belief, the soul into this modern world that seems completely detached. That people seem that have forgotten that everything that happens around us fundamentally is the product of our thoughts, is the product of our inside, our soul, our beliefs, but our belief system, our connection to God. And they just look at the superficial part of this happened to this, but they don't go back inside and understand the root causes that brought some people to feel, for example, our population today to be totally confused, like on the gender, that you used fantastic sarcasm. I really cared to show the people that your humor, your intellect is not boring. It is captivating. So you managed to address these issues with a very beautiful personality, let's say. And I like that in this particular episode that you put out just 2 days ago, how you were talking about the interfaith and it's called interfaith insanity. And here you actually, I loved how you said, we needed the cool Pope to tell that God was wrong. And you talk about how at the end of this video, he talked, Dr. Jules Gomes, now you will correct me if I'm wrong, but you say the Pope says, each religious leader should advocate, should stand by the belief of his own religion. I am a person who respects all religions. I am a Christian Catholic, but I respect other faiths and I hope and I would love that other faiths would respect mine. Only through respect, people can live together in the same planet. But our Pope should not say it doesn't matter who you believe in, just as long as you believe a Pope, if you believe any God, and it's good for you. And it's bad because the people who believe in a certain faith, then they feel disoriented, they feel disenfranchised, they feel confused, and say, why? Then all I have been believing and is not true anymore. So this is insanity. It is a way of a betrayal. It is a treasonous stance that the Pope has taken, and it hurts me. It hurts me. This Pope continues hurting us, talking about accepting. There are some things to respect, like the belief that two men cannot be married in the church. So why do you have to come now? I mean, they can marry civilly, but why do you have to force the church to do it? It is. Can you please expand a little bit and maybe transport this episode, this concept that you put forth into the madness that we are all living right now? This capovolgimento, in Italy we say, getting the bottom to the top, I don't know the word in English, the overturn of every value that we
Yeah.
have.
Yeah.
Can you please expand a little bit to this, please,
Uh,
to us?
Guya, I think you hit the nail on the head again when you used the word twice, actually. You talked about respect. And respect means accepting people and their beliefs, their religions, their worldviews uh, at face value. So if a Hindu tells you that classical Hinduism says that we are all gods and that existence, reality is Maya, it's nothing but an illusion, that we have deluded ourselves into believing that everything is real. For example, you are real and I'm real. And the moment I realize I'm not Jules Gomes, but I'm God, my soul, my Atman will merge with that eternal principle called Brahman, which the Hindus consider the ultimate God. Now, Pope Francis is saying, and this is where it constitutes a total disrespect of Hinduism. Pope Francis is saying, well, that's not very different from what Christianity says, or what Judaism says, or what Islam says. And this is metaphysical and philosophical nonsense. Basically, the myth, the fiction that all religions are about parts, equal ways, cammino, Pope Francis said in Italian, to the divine, is nonsense. Because if you've lived in a world, where there are people of different faiths around, and I have lived in that world, people of almost every faith, they will laugh at you if you tell them that Christianity is the same path. Jesus, who offers salvation, forgiveness because of his death on the cross, in the here and now, and eternal life with God the Father, who is a person forever in heaven. And then, of course, we
Yes.
have the new heavens and the new earth. Here in this world, a renewed earth is the same as the Hindu God, the Hindu religion, sorry, not the Hindu God, but the Hindu religion, which says everything is unreality, everything is illusion. I mean, this is, as I said, metaphysical nonsense, and it is disrespectful not just of Christianity, where Jesus very clearly says in John chapter 14, verse 6, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. He's making an exclusive, almost a megalomaniacal claim, and you accept it because you believe it's true, or you reject it because you think it's nonsense. But you can't say that claim of Jesus' exclusivity is the same as the claim that Buddha is making, that we are
Yeah.
unenlightened people and that all we need is to sit under a tree and suddenly one day receive enlightenment. So this is for a the leader of 1.2 billion Catholics to fail to understand this fundamental philosophical, concept, it is absolutely mind-boggling.
Yes, and thank you so much for articulating it so wonderfully and explaining this. The, the how can you say this religious crime? I would call it, of Pope Francis, because it is a religious blasphemy almost. I mean, you cannot. It is offensive, right? Like you rightly said, not only to the Christians but even to the other religions that I believe they love their uniqueness. They have their own beliefs, and they don't want to be associated probably to other religions because they believe in their own truth.
Yes, I mean, if I may very quickly interrupt, Guya, forgive
Yes,
me, but it's like saying, the great organ fugues and toccatas of Johann Sebastian Bach or the great
yes,
symphonies of Beethoven are the same
for the
or
same
very
as
similar
Mozart.
to a one-string minstrel who goes around, in Africa or in India, just plucking his string, twang, 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 and there is no difference with them. And all, takes you to the same place. I mean, that is utter nonsense.
But like I do not even maintaining the same level with the respect. I wouldn't say that Bach is like Mozart or Beethoven. I, you know,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yes.
So, and how would you? This latest statement of Pope Francis, and how this trend, because the church, because the archbishops, the cardinals, they are all okay. They're giving their via libera, their green light to all of this. There's not much opposition in the Vatican to these new ways of interpreting, of not interpreting, of redirecting the Christian religion. He chose a destination, and he moved the ship towards that destination, which is the woke mentality of that is professed even in the politics of globalism. So he really feels, I really feel that he has been, this is my idea, maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist, but Pope Francis is a delegate of the World Economic Forum, if we want to say, of the globalist board of directors, to readjust, to reinvent the way people see and approach themselves to religion. This is social engineering. And a social engineering that dives deep into the soul of the people. Because the connection to God is a direct connection, is like an umbilical cord between the soul and God and the Lord and our infinity. And I believe they're trying to not just socially engineer through politics, fiscal policies, etc., but really to try to interfere, like an algorithm, into the soul of the people. And they're doing that by managing the various religious leaders around the world. I guess I don't know around the world, but I can tell for the Pope because I'm in Italy and I know. So, but I guess if this is a global agenda, they probably are doing that even in other religions. What do you say? Do you think I am a total conspiracy theorist, or do you think that these measures, these stances taken by the Pope are actually have an objective, a precise objective in our society? Because we have seen many indecent things, even in the last Olympics,
Well, I would say you're not a conspiracy theory at all. In fact, just 2 days ago, I wrote a story for The Stream, which is an American evangelical website, a news website, and there I reported on rather, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, who is the second in command, the Secretary of State at the Vatican, who went to New York and presented a speech at the United Nations headquarters in response to one of the most sinister documents to have come out of the United Nations, and that is being called the Pact for the Future. It is a dystopian document. I mean, it's very scary. I think it's around 66 pages, and it talks about global governance. Now, Pietro Parolin affirmed it, endorsed it, backed it to the hilt. He made a few mild noises, a few timid objections to the fact that the document was talking about reproductive justice, that's abortion, which is of course against the Catholic Church, and gender ideology. But on the whole, it is remarkable to see how this pontiff time and again has been using the term global governance. He kept repeating this, almost. I don't want to use the word one world government because that does sound conspiracy theory like. But Pope Francis, his own words, global governance is enough to convey what he intends to say. And he talked about how, particularly as I said during COVID, local national governments were not enough, and we needed to transcend it and bring into existence the mechanisms of basically a single body like the United Nations ruling the whole world, which is why he's been vociferously attacking so-called populist leaders like Giorgia Meloni, our prime minister, Viktor Orban, in Hungary, and of course President Donald Trump. I spoke at the National Conservatism Conference in 2019 in Washington, D.C., Guya, and I spoke about, nationalism. And the organizer of this conference, as you know, is a very, he's really a great intellectual, Professor Yoram Chazoni. He's a Hebrew scholar as well. And he's got a fantastic book on nationalism. I've got an autographed copy just behind me on my bookshelf. And we were talking before my talk, and he said, well, the Roman Catholic Church, incidentally, he said this is not new, has been into he has been hungering for power and for a kind of one world government for centuries. And we know from history that the Catholic Church controlled much of Europe. He split from the Eastern Church, all because of its power politics. And until the Risorgimento, where Italy was formed, got her freedom, the Pope ruled much of Italy in terms of the papal states. So what Pope Francis did, in a sense, is not very new, but at least the previous popes wanted to rule the whole world so they could impose the Catholic faith on the whole world. But Pope Francis doesn't want to do that. He wants to impose a kind of, a new religion that he's come up with called fraternity. He imagines that we are all going to be, again, this is, what another professor calls the virus of the wishful thinking, that there is no original sin. We are not sinners. We're just nice people, who have slipped up from time to time. And so we can all live happily ever after, hold hands and sing with the Beatles, all you need is love. Again, you would have thought that the Second World War, the Holocaust, the Rwandan genocide, so many other world disasters after that would have opened our eyes to the truth that, as St. Paul says in the letter to the Romans, all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. And we are dead in our sins and trespasses. And as Billy Graham said wonderfully a long time ago, we cannot have the brotherhood of man without the fatherhood of God. And he was talking about a very specific God, the God of the Holy Scriptures.
Yeah, very interesting. Extremely. I mean, you opened a world in my mind right now, and I have been a little bit struck by the fact that Pope Francis talks about this global governance. Obviously, he believes, he would wish that the global governance would be centered on the Vatican, I guess, because. But you and I know that the Pope is not the head of the Vatican. Okay, the Vatican is something very deep, something that it goes, like you mentioned, centuries, probably even further, since the start of the religion itself, and since the start of Christianity, and who managed, who controlled the religion. Obviously, the very important noble families of Italy, Rome, starting from the back of Rome to today, probably, because we have a very powerful noble families in Italy that have, that have had influence in the world for 2,000 plus years. And
Well,
these.
so sorry again, if I may very quickly interrupt there. The Pope did not, for the first 140 years of the church after
Yeah,
Jesus,
yeah,
there was no Pope.
there was
Uh,
no.
there was no Pope. Churches in Rome were meeting in houses, in the houses of quite wealthy people, of course, because you had to have a house where 30 to 40 people would fit. And these churches were governed by a plurality of presbyteroi. Or elders, as St. Paul talks in First and Second Timothy. It was only later the what we call the monarchical episcopate slowly crept into the church with one presbyteros saying that he is more important, he's the head, and then that slowly evolving into a bishop who would take over an entire diocese. Now, Eastern churches, the African churches, for centuries contested the Pope, his claim to power over the whole world, over the whole church. And this is happening over the first 1,000 years of church history. But slowly, in fact, there are at least 8 major forgeries. One of them is the donation of Constantine, for example, that were introduced by the popes themselves. They were composed by somebody else, but they were used by the popes to slowly but finally declare himself as universally supreme. And it was only in 1870 at the first Vatican Council that the Pope, declared the infallibility of the papacy, and that again was when the forces of Italian nationalism had invaded Rome and were crushing Rome, and he had to find a kind of way of defending himself and hoping that he's not going to lose the papal states. And in the state of paranoia, he formulated this dogma. It was opposed by many bishops around the world, many top theologians and historians. But because of his power, he just put his foot down, crushed the opposition, and declared himself to be infallible in certain circumstances.
Yes, very, very interesting, very important historical moment that you mentioned, 1870. It was just after the unification of Italy,
Correct.
where Italy was, people don't know, maybe it was divided into many states, let's call them, okay? Each state, and there was the Vatican. When there was the unification of Italy, there has been the annexation of the Vatican to Rome. At
Yes.
this point, some noble, potent families that had even been in their family trees, had popes and cardinals, one to mention out of all the most famous ones, Orsini. We all know that Clarice Orsini was the wife of Lorenzo de' Medici. Lorenzo de' Medici, in the end of the 1400s, 1480s, 1490s, they made the first bank of the world, which was the first bank up, and the Vatican used the branch of their Roman branch of the Medici Bank in Rome as its first bank. And the son of Clarice Orsini, which is this very important noble family of Rome, that married Lorenzo il Magnifico, Lorenzo the Magnificent. It was when Florence was at its height culturally. It was the most important and the richest city of all Europe. Not only city, that city, Florence, was rich even more than England, just to make you imagine. And the son was Pope Leone X, and they had 5 popes in their family. And what I'm saying is, which was Giovanni de' Medici, Papa Leone X, Papa Leone X. And so what I'm trying to say is, in fact, with the unification of Italy, many of these noble families, which we call black nobility today, because they had to wear this black robe, they remained with the Vatican. Why? Because the Vatican, we all know, owns 34% of all the world's gold. 34% of the world's gold reserve is owned by the Vatican, plus 2 point something of Italy. So Italy and Vatican together own 36% of the world's gold reserve. So we have to understand that the potency, the power that the Vatican has, and the interest that people have in controlling the Vatican. And what I want to get at, it is evident that if one wants to enable a world governance, this little detail cannot be underestimated. Because who wants to have this world global governance? The most powerful people. And who are these? Are the ones in this world, in the real world. The powerful people are those who have assets, who have real gold, not printed money. So many people say it's BlackRock. Many people it's State Street, Vanguard, the banker of here, the banker of there. But they just print money out of nowhere. It is fake. It's ephemeral. It is like a lie. Lies don't last long. They collapse. And in order for them to continue their life, the life cycle of their lives, they have to start wars around the world because they have to keep printing. They have excuses. They don't own the gold. Okay. And in Italy, we have 70%, 65 to 70%, with all that it's abroad, of the entirety of the artistic patrimony in the world. Okay. Italy, people don't know, has 70% of the biodiversity of flora in the world, in this little strip of land that is only 0.5%. So I understand that the importance that my country, the Vatican, has because of its real power, upon where it really stands upon real assets. Okay, I understand the role it has in implementing this world governance that, in fact, the Pope is talking about. But what I don't understand, Jules, is what is the end goal? What is the purpose of all this? I do not understand. Please try to make me, and maybe you're such a deep person, profound, knowledgeable, all about all the religions, and like I say something, you come up with the perfect reference. How can you explain to me what is going right now in the Middle East? What is this? bond, che si chiama a contract that we have now with Christianity and the globalists who basically want to destroy religion, and the Jewish or Zionists, I don't know, nations or people that want to homogenize the Middle East into a more, what I believe, into a more unified religious bloc. Or am I wrong? What's going on?
Guya, that's a very good question. Let's look at it in terms of a conflict between three of the most important personalities the world has seen to date. One is, let's call him Marx. We know Karl Marx, the father of communism, in a sense. We're then talking about Muhammad, the founder of Islam. And then we're talking about Jesus Christ, who claimed to be
Yes.
the Son of God and who, is the founder, a Jew, who founded Christianity, in a sense. Again, much more complex than that. And for centuries, we've seen a struggle ever since Muhammad came up with Islam. And when I taught Islam, the first thing I would do in my very first class is I would show two sets of maps to my students on the overhead projector. One set of map, and both these were the Middle East and North Africa. And they would be absolutely astounded to see that almost the whole of the Middle East, with a few exceptions, Iran, again with primarily Zoroastrian, and then North Africa was entirely Christian. And by the time after Muhammad came on the scene and the Muslim armies rampaged through all these places, they had turned it from Christian into Muslim. So we need to understand that Islam is not just a religion, it's a political ideology that
Yes.
has been encompassed within a religion. And the ultimate goal of Islam is world domination. Islam divides the world into two camps, the house of peace and the house of war. And Islam means surrender. If you surrender, you will have peace. If you refuse to surrender and hold on to the fact that you want to be a follower of Jesus, or you want to be faithful to the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, then of course there are two alternatives: we'll kill you, as recommended by the Quran, or you submit to us. You are a second-class citizen with absolutely no rights or very few rights, and you pay a tax. And then, of course, we have the new secular religion, which is basically Marxism, communism, that comes under different guises, whether it's diversity, inclusion, equality, all that sort of nonsense that is now permeating many, many parts of the West. So there is a massive struggle going on, a power struggle going on between these three forces. Sadly, the church has become very, very weak, precisely because of popes and bishops and priests like Pope Francis, who no longer believe that the gospel is the only way to salvation, that they don't believe that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. And so they are so hesitant to preach the gospel, to engage in missionary activity, to evangelize others. And in the Middle East, you see this, the historic hatred which is ingrained in the Quran from the lips of Muhammad. So many references in the Quran. In fact, I tell friends, if you think Mein Kampf, written by Hitler, is anti-Semitic, read the Quran. It's one of the most anti-Semitic texts
Yeah.
ever written. Now, in that sort of, and the Westerners just don't understand it, because a Westerner is not going to give his life for his religion. But in the East, people are willing to die for their faith. People are willing to kill for their faith. If you insult Muhammad, our beloved prophet, they say, we'll kill you. This is simply foreign to the Western mind. And so the Western mind all the time, places this conflict at, well, it's land, well, people are oppressed, but this is just not going to work. Again, to use the phrase, it's the virus of wishful thinking. And this is what is
Yes.
being acted out every single day in the Middle East, particularly against this one tiny nation, which is so small. I've gone so many times to Israel. It's unbelievably tiny. It has
Yeah.
a very small population. And
Yeah.
compare that to the mass of land that the Arab world owns.
Yeah.
This problem could be solved in a day. We're talking of the Palestinian problem,
Yeah.
but the Arab world does not want to
Doesn't want.
solve it
Yeah.
because
I believe
because
so.
of their ingrained hatred against the Jews, but also they don't want the Palestinians on their land for all sorts of different reasons, including the fact, particularly the fact that the Palestinians have caused hell whenever they have been welcomed in Lebanon, for example, in Egypt, for example.
Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting what you pointed out, that Islam, because they say we are the religion of peace, we want peace. Yes, only if you surrender.
Exactly. Yes.
They always omit the second part.
Yes.
Only if you surrender to my religion, I am the religion of peace. Otherwise, there is no peace. And I absolutely agree. And I have to say, we don't even have to go down to the Middle East to see how the Muslims that come to our country, they do not respect our
Yes.
our customs. When I worked in fashion, I had to welcome customers from all over the world. And when we had the Muslim customers, we were obligated, we had to wear long sleeves and
Mm.
cover the ankles. We couldn't show the
Wow.
ankles. So
Wow.
long skirts over down, but okay. So, because otherwise they wouldn't come in shop. I mean, we sell fashion in Italy. I'm in Milano, and but you see, it is some people are the leftists that don't have a normal brain. They come up with things like, well, when you go to church, you can't go with your shoulders uncovered.
Yes.
Yes, because I go to church. I respect the church. If I go to
Exactly.
Arabia, I respect their
Yes.
customs. If I
Yes.
go to China, I respect their customs. I don't, okay, if in my country I eat with my hands, but in China they eat with the sticks, I will eat with the sticks because I'm
Yes.
in their country. Okay, so if you come to my country, just like I respect when I will put the burqa if I have to in your country because that's what you want from me, I'm your guest. But when you come to my country, that I am in my house, I don't have to accommodate myself in order
Absolutely.
to make you happy, because you are my guest in my
Yes.
country
You are
and
a
you
guest.
accommodate
Correct.
yourself.
Correct.
And Islam does not accommodate itself to nothing and nobody. And they come in
Exactly.
our nations in Europe and they do not integrate. They do not want to integrate, because if I come in China and I want to integrate in China, I'm going to start wearing Chinese clothes. I'm going to start speaking their language. I want to be their culture, eat their food. I'm not going to start saying, well, I want to do halal meat, which halal meat
Mm.
means to kill animals, cold-blooded, because, to cut the throat.
Mm.
And we have dignity laws on how to kill the animals for food, for the industry of the
Mm.
food in Italy and Europe, for the dignity of the animal. They don't. So, they do not want to integrate it. They start coming in groups, they live among themselves, and they occupy areas that then
Yeah.
they want to expand, like a Swiss cheese, they
Yeah.
expand, and then they take over slowly,
But,
and they even say it
agree
openly.
too, yeah, that is the whole purpose of mass migration. My
Yes,
friend from
yes,
England, who is again another great intellectual, he knows the Quran by heart. He knows
yes.
much of the Hadith by heart. He was an Islamic jurist. The Lord touched him. He had a marvelous conversion experience. He's now a passionate Christian. he has a death, a fatwa on his head.
Mhm.
They will pay millions to get him assassinated because you cannot convert in Islam, as you know.
Yes.
It's a punishment by capital of
Yeah.
offense. It's a capital offense to convert. So he's written a wonderful book on migration, and he talks about how Muhammad himself established this pattern for Muslims to follow when he immigrated from Mecca to Medina, and there he set up his political empire, as it were. And that has become a pattern for Muslims to go to countries, and spread
Yes.
Islam there, and
Yeah.
for ultimately to conquer it. And my Muslim friends, when I was chaplain
Yeah.
at the university in England, would openly tell me, they would say, we are here to conquer. They would tell me that, oh, England is finished. It's a post-Christian country. People don't believe in anything. And so this is right. The time has come for us to take over. But this is again the leftists who live in a deluded world simply do not want to accept this. And they perhaps some of them think, like I think it was Churchill who said that, you keep feeding the crocodile thinking that the crocodile will eat you last. And well, the crocodile will eat them one day.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, it is the fact that, like a good-hearted person has a hard time understanding the mind of a bad-hearted person
Yeah.
because he's not like him. People, so they say, oh, no, it cannot be. It is like that. And I'm not saying that the Muslims are bad-hearted at all. I really respect the Muslims. I really respect their religion, their beliefs. And I am glad that they have an internal belief in something greater that gives them that teaches them values of some sort. But because it is so aggressive towards the other religions, they must be kept outside the countries that have other religions. So
And
I
I
do
mean,
not. So if we want to live peacefully,
yeah,
right? People who believe in Islam should live in Muslim
yes,
countries because
yes,
they are
yes,
theocracies. They are theocracies. We are not a theocracy.
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
And it's incompatible on a legislative term. Aside from a moral, a practical legislative manner, they are incompatible in our societies. So you're welcome to believe in whatever. You're welcome even to join the community of Charles Manson because we live in a free world.
Yeah.
But you go in somewhere outside of my country because this is not acceptable. And I do not understand why more people do not understand why people don't have consultation with people, scholars like you, scholar academics, professors. You taught Islam, you taught all the religions. You have been, as I introduced in the beginning, even volunteer in the IDF. So you touched with your own hands, the reality on the land of how Israel is forced to survive in such a hostile region. I'm not going to go into the ways now they're conducting a war and about the current government. I am sure the courts that have that duty, to investigate if what they're doing is proportional or not proportional, if the death tolls that now they are reporting are acceptable or not, if the response is justified or not to the attack that they suffered on October 7th. These are very intricate and complicated and complex topics. And personally, as a woman, as a very, very against any sort of violence, I believe. I do not believe in war, in conflicts, in physical conflicts. I just wish no other bloodshed can happen anymore, anywhere around the world, especially the children. My heart just destroys itself whenever I think of the children that are mutilated or hurt by the stupidity of the adults and the greed or the insanity behind every war. But what do you in conclusion of our beautiful
Well,
interview.
I thought I'd conclude on a positive note. Uh,
Yeah.
this morning, I spoke to one of my friends who came from Bangladesh
Mm-hmm.
to Germany. He was a Muslim
Mm-hmm.
from a very wealthy upper class family. And there, some Germans at the railway station gave him a copy of the New Testament. He came to faith in Jesus. That's a wonderful story. Today, he is a citizen of Italy, he speaks beautiful Italian. He is going around
Yeah.
on the streets of Rome and talking to Muslims and to Italians who have lost their faith about Jesus. Uh, I know one of my best students when I was leading the MA program at the London School of Theology in England, one of my best students in the class. He was a Muslim in Iran. And his entire family saw visions of Jesus and they converted to Christianity. So, for our listeners, I think it's very encouraging to know that we live in a very difficult world. But let's not despair because God is still at work. And the conversion rate in Iran among Muslims who are fed up of the oppression of Islam, but also remember the Iranians are not Arabs. They are very proud, in the best sense of the word. They are a very proud people because they have a rich and ancient Farsi culture, a glorious language. What a beautiful language Persian is. And it goes back right to Cyrus and Darius in the Old Testament, their history. And today, the nation of Iran is really, and I've just been reading a couple of academic
Mm-hmm.
articles written by a friend of mine on this topic. It's just astounding to see how many Muslims, totally fed up of the oppression of the mullahs there, are coming to faith in Christ. And that too miraculously by seeing dreams and visions of Jesus. So, I would encourage our listeners, put your trust in Jesus, put your hope in God. His work has not yet come to an end.
Yes, Jules, a wonderful way to conclude. Look, what can I say? I am. I'm so grateful for this interview that you donated to me and my followers. Now there's Kamala Harris giving some interviews, and some people joke saying things like, "Oh, now that I watched Kamala's interviews, I feel dumber." Uh, Now, instead, I would say the opposite. Now that I had this interview with you, I feel richer and intellectually more elevated. So, thank you so much. It was really illuminating. It's such a beautiful lecture,
Thank you and grazie mille.
Grazie, Jules. I see you soon. Okay. Have a wonderful weekend also. Bye
Take
bye.
care, dear.
Ciao,
Bye.
ciao. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for having been with me today. I said what I thought a minute ago. This was a fantastic interview. I hope it has been helpful for you, maybe even to better understand the dynamics that are behind all these conflicts around the world. It is even transformations of our religions, and I hope it has been filling you with more insight and knowledge. Okay, thank you so much, and see you next time. Have everybody a great weekend. Follow me on X at Guya Mariani, and subscribe to the channel. I never say it, I always forget. And like the video if you liked it. Thank you. Bye bye. Ciao.